Welcome to the Speaking Podcast. You can find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com. We're on BitChute, we're on YouTube, a Speaking Podcast. I also have the Awakening Podcast, the Meditation Podcast, the Learn Polish Podcast, and soon to be released, the Crypto Podcast. Today, a guest who was on my Awakening Podcast and impressed me with his solutions. Please welcome Andrew Calderella.
Thank you for having me, Roy. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for everybody to join us for today.
So I have a different strategy on this podcast. I like the guests to introduce themselves to the audience. You might let people know who's Andrew.
Sure, absolutely. Everybody wants me to start kind of at the beginning. So I was born in Detroit, Michigan in 1966 to parents fighting for the civil rights movement. I was born with dyslexia, learning disabilities. I was also born with a lazy eye. I was seeing 2200 vision out of my good eye. So they put my bad eye, they put a patch over my good eye to make me look out of my bad eye to strengthen my eye. So I don't know if you can imagine having learning disabilities, patch over your eye as a kid. You couldn't do much. You were bullied a lot by teachers, kids, and whatnot. Struggled in school. Certainly speaking was a huge issue. I couldn't even read in front of the class without everybody laughing at me. And so it created a lot of problems. But I did end up graduating from elementary school, went on to high school, became a school leader, graduated from high school. Athlete, went on to college, got speech communication degree, theology and philosophy degrees, traveled the world, started companies, been speaking as part of my career my whole life. But it was a challenge to get over that childhood fear to being able to speak in front of groups at all, without just freezing up. So I know that was kind of quick. You can check out my biography on my website and whatnot, but kind of give you a basic idea of who I am.
And because I remember being in school as well, and you'd have to stand up and read in front of the class, and it was just something that terrified me. The teachers aren't really good at helping you. They just kind of laugh or they just put you down, and I've seen that a lot. And it's such a shame, because that is the one time that you're supposed to give people confidence and encourage them and support them so that they don't have fear speaking when they get a bit older.
Absolutely. We used to sit in a circle and go around and have the kids read. And I, like you said, as they were going around, I would get more and more terrified because I couldn't read it. All the kids would laugh and snicker, and the teacher would I don't think they address it correctly, because they just tell them to stop. What they don't do is help them understand what it would be like if they were sitting in my position, right? It's like treating people as you would want to be treated. We kind of got to ingrain that into our society if we're going to actually fix anything. So for me, this created there's a light in your mind, like you literally can't move, you can't see, you can't read, you can't do anything. You're just frozen. And, at some point there, so it would just make it even harder to even see the words on the page and try to read them. So, for me, it was certainly a nightmare. But I think there was also, being born with dyslexia and other learning disabilities, sometimes some of us are also given gifts. And I was tested out a lot throughout school, obviously in MRIs of my brain, all sorts of stuff. And they found that the communication center of my brain was a little larger. I spoke really early. I always used words that were way beyond my level of age or whatever. And my parents would always quiz me, what does that word mean? They'd be like, wow, it actually does understand what that means. So I always had this need to speak. And when I was in high school, I kind of came out of my shell. I think it was about 11th grade. I was always bullied, like you said, and oppressed. And I never really spoke up, except when something really bad was happening. I just couldn't take it. Whether it be to me or somebody else was being bullied, I just, would put myself in between and shut these bullies down, because I got big enough to be able to confront them and not be overwhelmed. So I think in high school, it was like I kind of broke out of my shell. I was like programming commissioner. I was the vice president in high school. I was a programming commissioner in my college. But I got up on stage, I was speaking, and all the teachers told me how great I was. But I was so nervous. When you get up there, before you go on, there's so much energy. After you go off stage, there's so much energy. And being an athlete, my thing was I would sweat. Like just before any race, you always get warmed up and you're ready to go. So getting on stage, especially in high school, man, I was pouring. It was like my shirts were wet rings. I had to literally put my shirt on right before I went on stage and hide my arms because I was just like super sweaty, man. I have some tricks that will help people. We can get to those in a little bit, but yeah, it was a big deal. Just being able to get over speaking. And like you said, the teachers in the beginning play such a huge role in this. I believe they should handle it differently, teaching the kids how to encourage their classmates, how to feel what the other person is feeling, because just a little bit of positive energy can go such a long way to a kid. They feel it so deeply. You know what I mean? So if all the kids are going, hey, you can do it, Andrew, you can do it, instead of laughing and, oh, just go on to the next guy, he can't read, whatever it may be, that would change the whole dynamic. And I think the teachers do such a disservice. Every time you watch TV shows, you see this all the time. They just tell the kid to stop. There's no teaching moment there. It should be like, Johnny, can you stand up? Now, you were just laughing. How would you feel if we all were laughing at you right now? If you were sitting there on the spot right now, Johnny, how would you feel, to really make him understand what it's like and what he's doing to somebody else. I think that would make a big difference. So
definitely. And the other thing that annoys me really is like, the teacher, it seems to be the same around the world. A teacher has a job for life. And a lot of them, like, my mother sent me to a good school, which there was 3 or 4 schools around me, but it was far, 45-minute walk to the school that we went to. But there was teachers that were alcoholics. There was, and that was supposed to be the best school. And there was so many of them. Like, a guy would come in for teaching us English, open the book, he said, read that and leave. Like, they should lose their jobs. They should lose their jobs. And unfortunately, they have a job till they're 65 or 67, whatever the retirement age is.
Yeah, I think the whole tenure thing has got to be revisited. I don't think any job should be held just forever, just because if you're not doing a good job, obviously you shouldn't have the job. It should be done on merit. But I also think teachers and policemen and other people that are in these service jobs, they get burned out. You know what I mean? You can't do certain things year after year after year without having some type of shell or issues and whatnot. I would like to see kind of a transitional jobs here and there, so that like a police officer or a teacher can just be like, all right, I'm going to get out of the classroom for a year and I'm going to go do this. I don't know what that thing is, but then they can come back, get a little break and do different things. And when I talk to different types of service people, it's the interacting with any group of people for too long can what do I want to say, sometimes negatively affect how you're going to interact with them. This happens with police officers all the time. They see the worst of life. So everything they deal with sometimes is just, you're the worst human being ever. I'm going to treat you just like all the others. You know what I'm saying? Instead of how they would want to be treated in that situation.
And I think sometimes it's, whether it's the police force or in the schools, a lot of the time it's the internal politics, because sometimes the teachers that don't really, because there are some fantastic teachers out there. There's some people, they care for the kids. They really, they treat them like their own children. And, they're trying to bring in creative stuff and they're being blocked by the others because the others don't want to rock the boat and they're fighting. And I think sometimes that's what sucks the energy out of the good guys.
Yeah. I think in our whole society, there's this fight between like the past, the traditionalists, let's keep everything the same. And then the people are like, no, this is wrong. We need to change this. There's a better way. How about we innovate? I can almost see that in everything, that we're trying to do. It's always these, I think there's 2 different types of personalities. There is the traditional view, and then there's the people that are more progressive and want change. I think we all need to kind of embrace both of those things in the way that we want to keep obviously the good stuff that's good, but we need to change the things that are bad. We can't just look at the past and say everything was great. It certainly was not, and we can certainly as a human race improve on everything we can do. And if you look at teaching, I mean, that industry hasn't changed much in hundreds and hundreds of years. I mean, sit down, shut up, listen, go home, and reading arithmetic. Why are we doing so much math? You know what I'm saying? I mean, kids need other skills. They really need other skills. How to communicate with each other. How to raise a kid, for God's sake. I mean, there's so many basic skills. How to deal with your finances properly. Like the moment you leave high school, you should have the wherewithal to be able to deal with your life, not just be like, now I got to figure out how to do all this stuff. Anyway, we can go on.
No, I absolutely. Because I mean, I was constantly questioning, why did I learn all these different things? You had no choice. And the problem is with the education system, it's based on memory. So you're a good student if you've got memory. You mightn't have any empathy. Your emotional intelligence doesn't come into the equation. It's all about memory. You're top of the class if you have memory, yet your social skills could be zero. And,
Exactly.
the whole lot needs to be reevaluated.
Absolutely. Actually, in the third book of The Way, which is the book, it's first book's all the philosophy, the 7 steps. The second is goes into the details of the foundations of life. And the third one covers how we can raise our kids better and be better parents and whatnot. And one of the things I learned when I was studying education is this idea that why not stop this whole idea of grades and just teach the children to their abilities? Meaning you can have a kid that would be in the 3rd grade bracket, but he might be reading at a 6th grade level or a 10th grade level. He might be doing math or at a 3rd grade level, whatever. But the idea is not to hem in our students and make everybody the same, but to teach them to their abilities and to find their weaknesses and show them how they can compensate for them, shore them up and whatnot. The kids with disabilities, I don't know what, like you said, memory. I have literally a learning disability that there's no way I can remember strings of anything. I could never pass a spelling test, a math test. I mean, even now, it's like you do math tables in my head. They're just all mixed up. You know what I mean? It's just, there's no way. But if you could just teach me how to compensate for this, how to look up words in the dictionary, how to use a calculator properly, all these other ways that you could teach a kid how to compensate for it, then you could spend the rest of the time working on the gifts that I had and helping me to achieve, higher levels of that. I didn't even know I had any gifts until I was in college. They're like, oh, wow, you test out as a genius in abstract thinking and this and this. And, I'm like, really? Everybody's been calling me stupid the whole life. Nobody ever said that to me. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me,
I it's similar, right? It was like you're bored, you'll amount to nothing. I mean, to write that in a report card, and then later on, I was coming, like, I had a strange situation. I was either the worst in the class in a subject or the best in the class, and the reality is I should have been able to dump them subjects because I had no interest in them. And they should have pushed me into the ones that I was coming top in the class, because then I could excel even further with them.
Yeah, I think there is a give and take. We do need to teach our kids some things they may not be interested in, but I get what you're saying. It's like following the child's interest and their abilities, and then shoring up the other areas that we think they need to know. You know what I mean? Like, does everybody really need to know calculus in this day and age? I mean, really, seriously, I get it back in the day where we didn't have calculators. We didn't, math was like a huge thing that we were all trying to understand and how it worked with business and data and all that kind of thing. But nowadays, nobody that I know does high math themselves. Nobody, they're not breaking out the pad. Nobody, they're all doing it on the computer, for God's sake. So like you said, I think it's a matter of finding those interests and helping the child explore them so they can go as far as they can be. So you may have a report card that looks like, oh, he's at level 10 in reading. He's at level 4 in math. He's at level 6 in communication. You know what I mean? And you go down and all these key skills that people need in the world are rated instead of just the basics, math, reading, whatever it may be. We need to go deeper for sure. I think the whole educational system also needs to change in the sense that, using our bodies. I mean, we are not machines. To take a child and make them sit in a chair and not move is ridiculous. I mean, you got to be working these kids out every, 10, 20, 30 minutes, getting them up, move around, sit down. Okay, now listen, teach them how to focus and do things, but don't make them into some type of fake person. You know what I mean? The H or ADHD, all these problems with energy and being able to focus. I don't know any boy in the world that is going to be like, yeah, just let me sit down in the chair for 6 hours and not move and just listen to somebody. And I say that to girls too, can do that, but boys, I'm just saying, there's just no way. If you know a kid that is so wrong to even do that to them. Anyway.
No, and like they're basically conditioning you to be working for a corporation, so you're compliant, and yeah, it's a sad society.
Well, it's all based on the whole serfdom and slavery and all that. It's like, sit down, work, shut up, don't be human, be a machine, right? I mean, United States, you just go back to the early or late 1800s, early 1900s, and you see horror after horror after horror after horror of the corporations. I mean, there was a fire in New York City. They had locked the doors so nobody could get out of this sewing place. All these women and children were burned to death in this place because they just worked them to death. They weren't allowed to move. 12 hours, sit in front of this machine. You couldn't get up. You couldn't leave. You couldn't eat. You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy. So we've come a long way. Obviously, we still have problems. This is the whole crux of the issue with humanity. Is like, are we going to fall to the dark side, or are we going to step up and live the light side? Are we going to do
Like
right by people or not?
I think in, say, the Western society, it's like, I know some people in America, they have to take 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. But I remember, like, I toured Thailand once, and there was a guy, because I got a suit made. He said he has 1 day off in the year, and I know that a lot of the people that are doing the mining and everything, they don't have time off. And like
Right.
slavery in the East, it's terrible, and we
Yeah.
just kind of like close our eyes to it. Like, the way I look at life is that I don't care what your religion is or anything, but if we looked at it as if there was reincarnation, but you don't know where you're going to be born, then you wouldn't want Africa, all their assets being ripped off, or in India, a lot of these places where they're just, they're working, they're living in poverty. So if everybody had a belief system that when you actually reincarnate, you're going to appear anywhere, you would then ensure that society is kind of as even as you can create it.
Right. And well, I think that's where I come up with 10 laws within this book on how we can kind of all have a core belief system that would change the world. Whether you believe that you're reincarnated in this planet or somewhere else, what time frame and whatnot, I think it's immaterial in the sense that if you just view people as equal and treat them as you would want to be treated, just those 2 ideas. And equality, I know we're getting off topic from speaking,
But it's,
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's
yeah. I do want to share some things, but this idea of equality where, everybody on this planet shares 99.9% of our DNA. I mean, that is fact. You can look it up. If you look up genetic Adam and Eve, you'll see that we can trace our lineage back to a male and a female about 175,000 years ago. That tribe is what ended up populating and taking over the world as far as their children goes. So, we're all one human family, whether you think of it scientifically or even as a faithful person, as a religious person. God created all of us. So, why would you want your brother or your sister or your child to be treated that way? If it's not okay for you and yours, it's not okay for them and theirs. You know what I'm saying? It's like those 2 laws alone, and accompanying with respecting life, could change the world. There's no way you're going to be treating anybody this way. And I think there's also this misnomer too in our society. When I study history, there's seriously this sickness of superiority, where some people think the whole goal of life is to gain more power, wealth, and fame. And for some reason, mostly men, when they gain a certain level, it's like their soul just becomes corrupted. And now it's all about crushing people's lives under your thumb and making everybody do what you want them to do for some reason. I don't get this. I mean, it's like, seriously, it's all the autocrats around the world and whatnot. What is wrong, man? You don't have to be such jerks to everybody. It's like, why not try to help them instead of trying to crush the life out of everybody and make them do what they want? Oh, these people must be poor and treated lesser. What is wrong with you, man? You've obviously been corrupted and you're lost. So I think our goal as a society is to figure out how we can create what I call the true society. As you go through the different levels of creation of a society, there's a point where you start working to fix or improve the goodness instead of fixing all the badness. We have so much badness to fix right now. And we have like the super rich and the people that have all the money and power, some reason not fixing all this stuff. Like they play at it, kind of, they talk about it, but seriously, I mean, if I had any power and money and I was able to talk to Warren Buffett and all these rest of these people, I mean, it'd be so easy to fix some of these problems. I mean, it's really not that hard. If you just put the right focus. We have enough money, we have enough people, we have enough technology to do anything, for God's sake. So
no, they don't want this. They set up foundations and they basically put it into their back pocket, and they do the opposite. But look, it is what it is. We know how to do it. But one thing that I like is, you're well able to communicate. And I think for us to make change in the world is basically to get the message out and be confident speakers. So, I mean, you said you had businesses, and so what did you learn for getting, be able to, get your message out and connect better on stage?
Yeah. So I will say this, like speaking in business is totally different than doing this. Like when I would go to business meetings and you're talking about internet marketing, SEO, strategic consulting, I certainly got a little nervous, I was getting prepared and whatnot, but it wasn't this like, major, I don't know. Let's talk about this for a second. Like before you get on a show, the night before even, like you can't sleep, everybody's nervous, you're not sure what's going to happen. My first show, I was so nervous. I don't think I slept, but a few hours the night before. And I was just a phone call. So it was going to be on a radio show. And I had all these papers laid out on my desk, like I could refer to them. I can't read anything when I'm really trying to speak. It's really hard. So anyways, it just was such a surreal experience. And then afterwards, there's such energy too. So I think that there's the biggest challenge when you're going to speak sometimes is dealing with this energy effectively. So what I did is I figured out, obviously working out for me is a big deal. So what I do is I work out pretty hard before the day before the show, burn off that. And in the morning, I got to get a good yoga workout in, a good meditation. It helps to center me. So that's kind of like part of what I do when I first start going on these type of shows. I'm just looking at some of my notes because I wanted to make sure I touched on a few things. Yeah, so I think one of the things too that really helped with the energy was like okay, how to say this? When I'm talking about SEO or search engine optimization or helping somebody with their business, it's very linear. It's very, I know what we're going to talk about. This is my business. It's no big deal. When I go on these shows, I have no idea what people are going to ask me. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you prepare for anything? I mean, I'm talking about robots invading to pesticides to, leadership problems, whatever it may be. And I remember my first 4 or 5, 6 shows, I was so nervous. I don't even remember what I said on the shows. I don't remember what happened afterwards. I was so spun out. I could not sit down for the life of me at my computer and try to work after a show. I had to go work out or go outside and do something. So it like really was a lot. And I talked to other people about this. If you've stood in front of a stage and live stage with people, I know people that are artists, I want to say musical artists. So whether they're playing the bass or they're the singer, there is this huge amount of energy, not only before the show, but after the show, that a lot of these guys don't know what to do with. And you wonder why they drink and they destroy hotel rooms and they're doing all this stuff. It's because I believe of all of this energy that is just spiraling around them and in them. And they just don't know how to effectively deal with it. So I think as a public speaker, learning how to deal with the pre-energy and the post-energy is a big deal. So what I started to do after the show is again to go work out or go work in the garden. I like doing working with plants and whatnot. It's really centering. And I listen to books. So I listen to books, go work in the garden for an hour or two, and it kind of helps dissipate that weird energy. You definitely don't want to get into some negative things. You don't want to be drinking and smoking and all that kind of stuff, because then you're just going to burn yourself out and end up nowhere. So.
Oh, very good. And have you spoke in different countries as well and in different parts of the States?
Yes, over this video I haven't done a lot of speaking since 2000. I was hit by a car. I was sitting at a stoplight, rear-ended 60 miles an hour from behind, ruptured discs in my back, jammed my hip. I mean, I couldn't stand up or walk for years. And then I finally started getting myself together in 2007. I was hit again, set me back to like 2010, 2011. And it kind of made me a little bit of a hermit in a way, because I then was just writing my book and just got into this whole mental game and didn't go out as much. So I did a lot of stuff online at that point. I really could not sit and travel anywhere. I could not sit on a plane if it would ruin me. I wouldn't be able to get up. You know what I mean? So I have spoken all over the world. I'm speaking right now in Europe. So I'm here in California. So yeah, I have, but not literally on stage. I would like to do that again. I really do like to do it. It's just now when I do it, I have to travel first class because I have to recline my chair way back. I cannot sit in an L position for hours. I'll never be able to stand up. So it's kind of a bigger deal than it used to be.
And because like you've got a fantastic background, what have you learned with all the online stuff that you could give a few tips and tricks to people?
Sure. Let's talk about a few of the tricks I brought with me. I don't know if you guys know about Vocal Zone. This is a product. I think it's made in Europe, actually. They're these throat pellets. You suck on them before the show. It really kind of warms up your throat when you're doing, I do tongue twisters. So you want to make sure you warm up your lips, you enunciate. I also have this Biotin spray if you have dry mouth. Uh, it happens to people. If you carry a little tiny vial of this in your pocket, even if you were standing on stage or whatever, you can take it out, give yourself a few squirts, help that dry mouth. I don't know if you've ever gotten severe dry mouth when you're speaking before, but it is a monster to deal with. If you're giving a 10, 20, 30-minute speech and you're, your lips are sticking to your teeth, you can't even. So this is a good thing just to carry. You don't have to carry this huge bottle. You can make a smaller one. So if you go on stage, one of the keys that I found, honestly, for me and my sweat issues, I'm wearing one of these right now. It's a Thompson Tees. Now these are sweat-proof shirts. Okay, they literally have pads in the underarms, but the way the material's made is it will not show sweat. I would be seriously sweating right now. Like you would see rings under my arms if I did not have one of these shirts on. So this has really made a huge difference. They come in men's and women's. I get the V-necks because you want to leave your shirt open, but they have all different types. Let's see what else. You can use Clear Eye before a show if you have issues with your eyes being irritated. I know when I work outside or sometimes in Southern California with allergies, it's a big deal. So they have anti-allergy. So you don't want to blink too much. You want your eyes all red. Let's see what else. Oh, one of the keys I found too when you're going on all these shows is if everybody has spotty internet, like if you're going over your laptop and using wireless, you want to use a USB Ethernet connector. So you can plug your laptop into a wired connection so you don't get all that choppiness, especially if you have other people in the house that are using bandwidth. It can really make a big difference when you're on these shows. So when I talked about meditation and working out before the show, I think that's a really good way to go. Using a green screen, I don't know if anybody's interested in that, but I just put fabric on the wall. Getting your lighting, lighting the green screen behind you is a big deal, and then lighting yourself separately from the green screen is a way to go. There's also the software called OBS software. So if you want to do a whole show and structure like scenes and show videos and PowerPoints and whatever, this is a really cool software where you can manage the backgrounds and everything everybody sees.
I've actually seen that recently because I had the guy Flat Earth Dave was his name, and he was playing videos constantly, and it's the OBS. Is it hard to use, or is it something?
No, it's really pretty intuitive. They have video tutorials out there. I just started playing with it because I go on shows where they don't allow you to use a green screen natively like Zoom does. So you can integrate it in there. I've had issues with it though. I will say that on trying to think where that was, Riverside FM or some of these places where I think that they had 2 or 3 other people and they were trying to merge it all together and they all had green screens, so it was coming out a little funky. So I had to turn my green screen off. And then then if you have a green screen behind you, it's a big deal because if you turn it off, now you're just green. So what I did is I have you see this pole. I can hook up a different type of background, just black or white in an emergency if I have to, because you don't want to just have green behind you.
No, exactly. That's what because we do StreamYard, and unfortunately, when I put on the green screen, it doesn't work. It just goes weird with StreamYard. And no, I've bought a flag. So the OBS, does OBS connect with StreamYard? Can you connect?
Yeah, absolutely. It just shows up as a camera. So when you go in the click down and you're choosing your camera, it just says OBS. You got to turn it on in the OBS software. You turn on this little button that says stream, and then you'll see it. You'll see it as a camera choice, and you just choose it. I've had good luck with StreamYard using OBS. It was just this other Riverside FM. For some reason, that one just didn't work. But like I said, in an emergency, you also do want to have a backup just in case. And, let's talk about that for a second. I think one of the other biggest issues speakers have is what if you melt down or what if something happens? Okay. And I've had this happen. Like what you want to do is have alternative ways of doing things. I always advise you to print out something, have bullet points, especially if you can look at. So if you're literally drawing a blank and that light is in your face and you're like, oh my God, you can look down at something and have an idea of what to say and not just have nothing. Okay. I was on a show. This was one of my first shows too. I was literally giving a presentation of the way. I have this whole script and everything, and it's a big deal for me to do a script, right? Because I'm reading and whatever. So before the show, everything froze. Like you can see the show, you watch the show, you see me, they see a little box of me show up, I'm at the top, and then I disappear, and that's my computer crashed. And they're introducing me. right? Like I literally reboot everything and I get on right as they're saying, okay, Andrew, and I'm like, my script is frozen. I only have one little computer working. I literally made it work, and I gave the presentation. I didn't use the script that I wanted to. It was on the screen here. I could barely see it, but I got through the whole thing. And I think that taught me that, you just got to persevere. And people are, I don't think anybody knew that I was melting down during the show. But I think it would be okay just to tell people, if you're going through something like that, hey, you know what, everything just froze here. I'm just kind of winging this right now. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges and the fears, is that something weird is going to happen. What I would say to you too is when you're meditating, I have this 5 different ways of meditating. It's in the book and whatnot. But the last one is visualization. You do not want to visualize yourself melting down. You want to visualize yourself conquering and doing it well and overcoming anything. So in your head, when you're meditating and you're visualizing, doing the visualizing one, visualize yourself going through the show. Visualize yourself having some problem and then overcoming it. You know what I'm saying? Like really make this part of your mindset that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. And one of the things I realized too is that you have to start trusting yourself. After the first 5, 6, 7, 10 shows, I can't remember what it was, there was a point where I gained more confidence in that I wasn't just going to forget everything that I knew, and I wasn't going to be able to explain it. You know what I mean? That was my fear. It's like, there's so much in this book, and my mind works in so many details that sometimes when people ask me a question, it's like, oh, here's the encyclopedia I have to answer with. And it's like, no. You don't have to use all of your knowledge to answer a question. You can pick a couple points out, focus on those, talk about them. And my brother actually helped me with that. He was like, look, you don't have to explain everything. All you have to do is, if you can find 1 or 2 points to talk about, that's what they're looking for. You can say, well, there's a lot to do with this, but let's just focus on this. You know what I'm saying? So don't talk yourself into a corner, and realize you don't have to say everything. You have to say something. Pick 1 or 2 or 3 points and make it interesting. Makes sense.
No, excellent. And just going to the OBS as well, because just for the listeners, because Andrew's been on my Awakening podcast, because basically he, with the book, the way that he's with solutions, which we're constantly hearing about problems, but most people complain about the problems, but he's got solutions. And what we're actually going to do is we're going to do a monthly call, and we're going to do it live. So we're going to interact with people, and we'd love for people to be giving us solutions, coming in, asking us questions, and we'd be able to do that. So and you might just let people know about the book, because I've read it, and you've got some lovely suggestions, and we spoke about the education and even the kind of religion as well, because like you mentioned all the different religions, because you're not attacking any religion. You're saying the belief systems of all these different religions, they're all kind of similar. It's like treat people right.
Yeah, I honestly, that idea of the golden rule shows up in every faith that I've ever studied. I think there's 13 or 14, 15 in there in the book. And we're talking not just modern day, all the way back to Zoroastrianism. I can't remember all the names, but yeah, it's I think in our day and age, it's important to know the wrongness. And I think that's why I've been through so many trauma in my life, is you can't fix something unless you know there's a problem. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with our society, in that like the super rich and their children and their children's children, there's no urgency. There's no sense of desperation. There's no sense of anything wrong for them to fix. And they're told that this is the way the world should be, and they're the leaders, and this is it. You know what I'm saying? And that's, I think, part of the problem, is that we, as the human race that are living this day to day, go, no, there's some serious problems that need to be fixed. So for me, when I wrote this book, I'm not a writer, just so you know, people. I'm a dyslexic guy that literally is deciphering code to write this book, to have it make sense. I get people telling me they love my style of writing, and like I had a choice on, oh yeah, I'm going to pick this style of writing. No, it's like, can I make a paragraph or 2 paragraphs that make sense together? That I'm done. Adding a style onto that, I don't even know how you would even begin to do that. So this is out of a mission to show humanity and all of us the ways that we as a species become our best and can create a better world. And this isn't Andrew's way. This is humanity's way. And I say that out of all humility, because this really is not about me. If you want a solution, I'm just going to say this really quickly. I know we're kind of running out of time, but if you want any solution that's going to make any difference in your life, it's got to have 4 parts. It's got to be something that you live, that's just part of your life all the time. It's got to be logical and reasonable and rational and customizable to fit your life at any moment, and spiritually fulfilling, emotionally fulfilling, and be complete, right? You can't just leave any piece out. It's also got to be good. It's got to be about integrating virtue into your life. And just, virtue is what humanity has labeled as the highest traits that we admire. So we're all trying to be healthy and dedicated and emotionally balanced and all, you name it, whatever you like in another person or want to be, that's what a virtue is. But to turn a virtue into reality, you have to take actions. And humanity's best ways of doing things are called best practices. So with every virtue, there's best practices that you can integrate. And what I'm saying to you is that is the human way for us to be our best. It's about integrating virtues and best practices into your life that you live all of the time. You know what I mean? So when I say this isn't about me, what I'm saying is this is about us and how we can unite to make all this happen. And what I found too is that we are so all on the same page. We do not, everybody keeps saying how divided we are. The only people that are saying that we're divided are the super billionaires who want to divide and conquer, right? It's like this fight throughout the ages for a few to divide up the world so they can lord over us, right? Or the many to rise up and create a system that is good for everybody. So right now in human history is the only time that I've ever seen that we as a human race, planet-wide, can make changes that will affect the course of the rest of human history. And like I said, everybody I've ever talked to, we all want the same things. So this isn't like your wants and my wants are so in conflict. They're not. You want to have a good life. You don't want pollution. You want great education, great food, all the rest. Everybody does, So what is the problem? The problem is we don't have people of merit in the positions. We're becoming corrupted as we get to higher and higher levels. And we need to create a system that stops that. And the way is here.
Love it. Excellent. And basically, I said we're going to do live calls monthly, so you can actually write in a question on awakeningpodcast.org, and I have a form there so you can write in whether you want us to discuss a topic or you've got solutions, and we'll make sure that we'll cover them points. So listen, Andrew, it's been fantastic. I know we're going to be talking again. How can people get in contact with you?
Sure. The best way for getting in contact with me is the website. It's 7wayme. That's the number 7, WAY.me. Think of it like a command. The way has 7 steps. It's called the way. So 7wayme. We'll take you there and give you all that good stuff. And again, my name is Andrew Calderella. Calderella is like Cinderella. It's Calder instead of Cinder because I'm the male version. And yes, I am looking for my princess to come rescue me. So you can find me all over the internet. Just starting to get all my social media launched. We have Facebook group. We're just getting started. So I need everybody to help out and make this a united effort to help humanity and everybody become their best and create a better world.
Perfect. And I know that some of the videos that you've put up as well, they're actually inspiring. So, people need to check them out.
I just did one on why we're not divided, what the real problems are, and how we can fix everything. So it's about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 27 minutes, goes through everything. Honestly, I tried to make it really quick, but you can see what the real problems of the world are. And it is not that we're divided. And like I said, we all want the same things. That's at the very start of that video. I think these ideas, and again, I know I'm still working on my ability to speak. While people tell me I'm a good speaker, I know that a few years from now, I can see myself as another level than I'm at right now. Don't judge what I look like or who I am. Judge the content of what I'm saying. If I could look like you would want me to look or sound like you would want me to look, if it were you saying these things, you know what I'm saying? This is humanity's answers. So don't get bogged down on a personality of me. Let's just move beyond that and really make these changes happen, because there's too much suffering going on in this world. I mean, it's just like, it's so frustrating to me because I literally, like you say, I have solutions. And this is a small, tiny bit. You should see what's in my computer that's ready to go. I mean, I'm like, I'm like being hemmed in because I don't have all the resources to make all this stuff happen. And it's so frustrating. I can't even tell you, especially when the people that have all the resources, you're just sitting around going, why are they doing this? You know? So anyway, I could go on in that, but yeah, please, everybody, join us and help me help me help you. Let's help each other.
Exactly. No, perfect. Thank you, Andrew. And I'll make sure all the links are in the description of the podcast and also on the videos.
Yeah, I'll give you some links to all these little products I mentioned too, so people can at least see them. You can find them in your local stores and whatnot.
Brilliant, brilliant, because it's the first time I've ever seen anything like that. So, and even the sweat thing as well. So excellent tips. Really appreciate all that. No, fantastic. Really good for the listeners and for myself.
Thank you.
So that's all for the Speaking Podcast. You'll find all our episodes on speakingpodcast.com or on BitChute or on YouTube. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, share with your friends. And remember, you'll find Andrew on the Awakening Podcast as well. And we'll be doing live calls. So make sure to tune in. Until next week, take care.